Kong was shocked and couldn't understand what was going on. Then, a window appeared, stating that the GM was interfering with the world line. Seeing this, our boy wondered what world line even meant. Everything was so unfamiliar to our boy. Kong then noticed that the things surrounding him had started to move, before calming down again. Another message appeared, stating that the opponent's level was too high, Kang's level was too low, and our boy still did not meet the requirements. A new message followed. Does Kong still want to proceed? Kong thought to himself, this didn't feel like a dream. Maybe this was the reason our boy had fallen into this world. Perhaps he could find a clue about the blessing of the sword god that had been granted to him. Resolving to continue, Kong chose to proceed. A new message appeared. GM has confirmed Kang's intent. GM is using suppression force to make contact, beginning dull adjustment and transformation of world line. Suddenly, the surroundings started to break apart. Seeing this, Kong thought to himself, it was similar to the day our boy awakened the blessing of the sword god at the academy entrance. Whatever Kong had seen that day, he had to find out what it truly was. Kong moved forward, and little by little, our boy kept pressing on. But then, suddenly, someone called out to our boy, telling him to wake up. At that moment, a message popped up. Due to external interference, GM is losing memory. Our boy was shocked. Kong had been so close to uncovering the truth. Another message followed. GM leaves Kong a message. The GM urged Kong to defeat whatever it was, and concluded with, "May the blessing of the gods be with you." We then see that it was Saki who had been calling Kong to wake up. As our boy opened his eyes, Saki reminded him that he had scolded her earlier for sleeping too much, and now he was the one caught sleeping. Saki told Kong to be thankful. If she hadn't woken him up, he would have gone to school still asleep in class. But then Saki was surprised to see that our boy was crying. The scene shifts to later that day. Our boy is sitting alone on a bench, deep in thought about what had happened earlier. When Saki asked him why he was crying, she suggested maybe Kong had a sad dream. But Kong couldn't remember the dream. Our boy found it embarrassing enough to be caught like that by sleepyhead Saki, but what puzzled him was why he had cried. Just then, Batten, Chloe, and Saki arrived. Batten stated that they needed to go over things again, as there seemed to be an enemy inside the academy targeting Giamma during midterms. Saki interrupted, telling Batten she already got it. How many times was he going to repeat himself? That's why, she added, Batten wasn't at the top of the class. She told him to stop rambling and get to the point. Watching them argue, Kong thought to himself that he had asked Batten to explain everything beforehand, and Batten must have had a rough time. Batten, in turn, fired back, asking if Saki thought she'd stay on top forever. He told her to wait for next week's written exam. Saki covered her ears and said she couldn't hear anything. At that moment, Kong noticed Chloe standing a bit away. Our boy asked if she was feeling better. Chloe replied that she was, but she would keep her distance so as not to spread her cold. Kong realized that's why she had been standing far off. Then, our boy said that while Saki had probably heard the explanation, the situation had gotten a bit tangled. Racking Kang's brain alone hadn't helped much. Saki then moved closer to our boy and told him to call her by her first name, Ryoso. She sat next to him on the bench. Kong asked how he should address her, and Ryoso replied that she was looking forward to working with Kong Giamma. Batten jumped in, saying he had organized everything and that they needed to figure it all out. In the back, we see Saki getting frustrated, as Batten still kept talking about his plan again. First, he stated, the academy elders were targeting Kong Giamma. Second, there was the appearance of the female instructor, whom they'd heard about from checkpoint staff. Batten showed everyone a picture he had drawn based on the description. Chloe remarked that it was well drawn. Batten said he felt like he'd be able to find this instructor soon, but then admitted that knowing all this might not even be that important, since the elder's request had been vague. It would probably get cut off at Aditor's level anyway. Saki chimed in about the female instructor. She said she definitely remembered her. Saki had even broken into the academy's internal records and checked everyone, from head instructors to assistants. A total of 546 people. She did find one that matched, but strangely, she couldn't verify the instructor's identity. Surprised, Kong asked if Saki could really do things like that. Saki replied that in a world overflowing with fourth industrial tech, having a couple of skills like that was nothing. Even so, the place had the world's best security system, so she had to aim for the early dawn hours, when it was weakest. She added that Kong didn't seriously think she was just a sleepyhead who dozed off for no reason. Did he? Our boy thinks to himself that Saki is like a ghost. Even the number Kong never gave her, she somehow had. Now, Kong understands that's how Saki figured everything out. Batten comments that, basically, nothing has been clearly revealed yet. Still, he and the others can't just barge into the Elder's quarters and start making threats. Well, Batten says, Kong might be able to pull it off, but it would probably just make things worse. Saki admits that she agrees. Chloe nods, saying she thinks the same. Then, Batten suggests they should start a club. Kong is surprised to hear this. Saki explains that at Awakens Academy, clubs not only have free movement, but also receive funding, as the academy encourages cadet cooperation, real or not. So, the academy offers benefits to fit that ideal. One of those benefits is that clubs are treated as affiliate organizations of the academy. In other words, at that point, Batten cuts in to clarify. What Saki meant is that just being in a club grants a degree of protection from the academy, because being just a cadet isn't enough. Saki adds that for them, with enemies both inside and out, a club would serve as a double barrier. Our boy thinks to himself that one of the systems in Blessing M is the club system. Since the game is set in an academy, this feature allowed players to decorate a private space with furniture and items, invite characters, and build affinity, a staple of otaku games that emptied many fans' wallets. The so-called housing system. But our boy had never paid much attention to it, since Kong was always short on time. Now that it's real, who would have thought it would have this kind of use? Kong asks if there are specific requirements to start a club. Batten replies that first, Kong needs at least 5 members and a club funding proposal to be submitted to the proper department. Hearing this, Kong realizes he's one person short. He then asks if everyone here plans to join the club. Batten laughs and tells Kong not to be like that. Of course they're in. He wouldn't have brought it up if they weren't doing this together from the start. Chloe adds that if it helps Kong, she's in. Saki says she still owes Kong one from that dungeon anyway. Besides, doesn't Kong think a brainy type should be part of this too? Our boy thinks to himself that, as he got older, relationships became nothing but calculated give and take. But these people, who barely even know Kong, are saying they'll follow and trust him. Even in this world where social class means everything. Kong thanks everyone for believing in him. Batten then suggests they pick a name for the club. Chloe proposes Memories of Assassination, saying their club will take care of corrupt powers. She asks how that sounds. Batten immediately says he doesn't think that's going to work. Saki chimes in, suggesting something like Leaf Village Neighborhood Patrol, questioning why the name even matters. They should just pick something random. Batten tells her to stop talking nonsense. They all begin brainstorming names for their new club. Kong suggests something like the Travel Club, as they could clear dungeons and explore beyond the academy. Then he asks if that's a bad idea. Batten says he's in favor. Chloe and Saki agree as well. Saki mentions that they now need to find a faculty advisor. With the written test coming next week, they should prepare early. Batten agrees. Without an advisor, they can't establish the club. Kong still wonders if Travel Club is really a good name. Saki says honestly, this is the biggest problem, because the club advisor must be a professor or higher. Chloe suggests they try asking the Blessing Studies professor, since that professor is known to be both popular and kind. Batten replies that Professor Damien is too busy, so he doesn't think it'll work. Honestly, though, there's no one else quite like Professor Damien. Saki states that out of over 500 academy staff, only about 30 are professors, and only around 10 teach first years. They say they encourage club activities, but the system is full of contradictions. Then Saki turns to Kong and asks if our boy has anyone in mind. Kong replies that the advisor just needs to be professor level or above, right? Saki nods, saying yes, but reminds him that there's almost no one above professors within the academy. Our boy picks up his phone and says, but there is someone. Everyone turns to look, and they're all shocked when they see Kang's phone screen. In that moment, they immediately understand who that someone is Kong is talking about. I'm guessing it's Media, or maybe Siegfried. What do you guys think? Drop your guesses in the comments.